Hi, this is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame, and I'm visiting here with my friend Valerie Jardin. Got that
Very
right?
nice. Yes, you did.
Get a gold
Very
star.
close.
Well, you say it for me,
Valerie Jardin.
Jardin.
There you
I'll get it one day, but it's better than last time.
go. Thank you.
Well, hi, Valerie, and
Hi.
uh, we're gonna be doing a little something special this summer. We were both in Paris. She was teaching a workshop. I was sort of on vacation doing some work while I was there, but we weren't there at exactly the same time, which was unfortunate. But I thought it'd be a good chance to sort of to talk a little shop and to compare our experiences in photographing Paris. She's lived there, she's from there, so she has a certain level of experience that I don't. But even with my experience as just a glorified tourist, I thought it might provide an interesting discussion, um, not only about photographing Paris, about photographing people, um, but also the fact that we were both using mirrorless cameras, and I was using the X100S primarily for the trip, and I believe you were as well. So it'll give us a different variety of different points of discussion here. Before we begin, I just wanted to let people know who may not already know is that Valerie and I are going to be teaching a workshop in Los Angeles. It's a street photography workshop that's going to be held February 27th, 28th, and March 1st in 2015. It's going to be primarily in downtown Los Angeles. So it should be a really fun and exciting workshop. I know I'm definitely looking forward to it because I've, for as many times that I've talked to you, Valerie, this will be like the first time that I've actually sort of met in person.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. And LA will be new to me, and so having you as a guide is going to be awesome. We have a lot of registrations in. I mean, it's almost two-thirds filled already. So it's going to be a nice small group and a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, and we each have our very different approaches to street photography, which is one of the things I've talked to you about in the past. But it's going to be interesting that we were both covering similar territory, but came up with very different images, which I think is par for the course. Anytime you bring any photographer into a similar genre or a similar area. Um, but just briefly, I'll just explain why I was there. I was there for about 4 weeks on vacation with my wife, and this is our second time to Paris. So it was for me the second time was very interesting because I'd gotten comfortable and sort of um, comfortable with getting around, which was one of the big challenges. I don't speak much French, so I was at a real disadvantage both times, but I felt a little more comfortable the first time, and I think that this time I was really able to come into my own in terms of the photography that I did there. I think I was much more pleased with the results that I got this time around than I was the first time around. Um, but I'll share a couple of images here. But if you want to go to my website at ibarionex.net, you'll see some more images that I posted on the gallery, and I'll likely be posting more in the coming weeks. But Valerie, you were there to teach a workshop.
Yes, I started in June with the workshop, and then my family met me, and we spent a few extra days in Paris, and then went to the coast for 4 weeks after that. So it was, I mean, to me, Paris is definitely where I feel the most at home. Although being from France, I didn't grow up in Paris. I grew up on the Normandy coast, but which is really close. It's only a couple of hours away, but just Paris. Anytime I land there, it's home. And when I bring people on the workshop there, it's about it's about seeing photographically with a big emphasis on street photography, obviously, but it's also a cultural experience, and I try to make that pretty special because it's bringing people from all over the world to my home, and a lot of people have so many wrong ideas of the French, and because they stick to the tourist spots and they're not always very good tourists either. So on my workshop, I just want to take people off the beaten path, and then they slow down and they live more like locals and not like tourists. And I think that's important. That's probably why you experienced it better the second time. possibly because you kind of got all the tourist stuff out of the way on your first visit, and on your second visit you lived more like a local. And I think that's so important. And you rented an apartment while you were there, weren't you? Didn't you? Or instead of
We
being
were
in a hotel?
off the beaten path, so
Okay, okay. Yeah, because that helps too. If you find yourself in a hotel right at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower or on the Champs-Élysées, it's really hard to feel at home. I mean, obviously. Whereas if you explore the neighborhoods, and Paris, like many other cities, even in the US, once you're inside a neighborhood, you never feel like you're in a big city. It's really that neighborhood feel that is the quality is so amazing. So that to me that's the part about teaching a workshop in Paris that I love the most, is really showing Paris under a different light, really, literally.
I'm always fascinated by photographing in a walking city. Um, just because it allows you to explore in a way that you really, it's very difficult when you're living outside of a car half the time. Um, you are able to see and explore in a way that that's unlike anything else. And I think, especially being in Europe with just the history and the age of the building and the streets, there's so much eye candy to be had. Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming to know exactly what to focus on. But nevertheless, we both did it. And, and why don't we start jumping into the photographs?
Okay.
I'd like to start with the photo, your first photograph, which is
On mine? Okay. Let me see.
the embankment on
Okay.
the Seine.
Oh, okay. There. Why am I not? Why isn't it sharing? Hold on. Technical difficulties. Screen share. There you go. Start screen share. Now it should be on. And I will lock right there. Is it working?
Okay. Yeah, it is.
Okay, great.
And
so this was. Go ahead. Go ahead.
One of the things that struck me was when I get to see other people's photographs are the photographs that I didn't take. This is a photograph that I didn't take, even though I saw it virtually every day.
Yeah. And you walked by there. This was on going from the left bank onto Ile Saint-Louis. So you probably walked by on that bridge every day, almost. So yeah. And it's the first time I shot it too, and I go there all the time.
Yeah, because it was just like it's amazing that the simplest scene, which can make the most remarkable photograph sometimes, we don't make. We sort of, in a way, sort of take it for granted. So I was kind of curious what led you to make the photograph, because I love it graphically. I love how the images is split between the water of the river and then the embankment there, and I just like how that line sort of curves up from the bottom of the frame and leads us up to what appears to be like a little girl in a white dress, which makes the image, by the way.
Well, exactly, and it leads your eye to that, and that's what caught my eye, is actually that curve. And then I saw the I think it's a grown woman, the woman she's so small there, but the woman in the white dress, which is fairly unusual. And she's not a bride. I don't think so, because as you noticed, there are a lot of brides in Paris. Every day you see wedding photographers working near the river and everything. Here it seems like she was just wearing a long summer dress, and so she caught my eye, and I just loved that line. I only got one shot, and I shoot with a fixed lens, and that's what I love about that lens, is that I framed it just like this. That's how it turned out, and I saw it like this, and it's one of my favorite photos. And I've shot from above many times in Paris, but unless you have an interesting shadow, it can get pretty cliche and boring. Here I just love the line and the split between the water and the cobblestone. And it's one of those moments and I was actually it was just before the workshop, and I was with one of the students. We had met up just the day before the workshop. She was there, so I said, let's just go for a walk and get to know each other. And she did not when she saw that picture later, said, I was right next to you. And she did not see that. So that's what's interesting too. When you shoot with someone else, the styles are different. You're going to see completely different things.
Yeah. What's great about this picture is that it's quintessential Paris. You know, people by the river, uh,
Couples, yeah.
and just hanging out, and you can see by the structure of the walkway, of the wall, of the stairwell that that that's not Los Angeles.
It's true. It screams Paris, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
but
Yeah.
it's not a cliche shot. And it's like I made a lot of shots of the river and the bridges and stuff like that. But a lot of them were images that let's admit it has been shot before. And I think that this shot was really able to take a very different take on it, which I thought was very cool. And I'm especially impressed since you only got off one frame.
I usually do. I very rarely get two shots of anything, and yeah, I do really like this picture. I'm quite proud of it, just because it happened so quickly. I grabbed the shot and I moved on, and that it turned out exactly the way I envisioned it, the way I saw it. It happened very quickly. I could have sat there. I could have probably taken a few more shots, but this one just worked. And when it works, I'm pretty confident in that. We have the instant gratification of looking at the back of the camera. I said, okay, I think I nailed it. Um, and I kind of like that challenge in a way, thinking, okay, I think I got it. What if I could take 10 more frames, but why? This is much more gratifying if I only got one, and it's the one. And to me, that's kind of part of the game.
That's interesting because when I was shooting there, I turned off the screen on the back of the X100S so
Did
that it
you?
didn't play back the images. So I would never know if I really had the shot. So I was always tweaking the images, and by that I mean I was always sort of changing the composition slightly, especially because I would always sort of scan the corner because I would make my initial shot because I didn't want to miss the moment. But
Hmm.
then if I had the opportunity, I would tweak it by either moving closer or moving back or shifting the camera over a millimeter or so because I saw some distracting element at the corner of the frame that I wanted out.
Yeah.
And so I would just, try to squeeze off as many images as I could when possible, just because I know my initial shot is maybe good, but it may just off the mark, especially if it's not just a special moment that's happening there where I only have one frame to get. But if I can work it a little bit, I'll try and do that. And I think that by turning off the LCD and not chimping, it really pushed me to look very, very carefully at what I was seeing through the viewfinder.
Now, so you actually shoot looking in the viewfinder. I shoot from looking in the back. Live
Oh,
view,
LCD. Oh,
always.
yeah.
Yeah. So I never turn that off. I never thought I would, but with that camera, I find it so convenient to just do live view all the time. I never look in the viewfinder.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Should we switch to your first image?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. No. Okay. Did it work?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Oh, okay. That's because there. I have to do all those steps each time. Okay. Now you see it?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, great. So tell me, I see the Eiffel Tower, so there is definitely a sense of place there. Was it a...
This was actually we'd gotten up. This is within the first couple of days that we were in Paris, and we got up really early, or I got my wife up very early to go photograph the sunrise at the Eiffel Tower in that large sort of courtyard that they have there. I forget the name of it, but so
Oh,
we had
yeah, the Trocadero right across from it.
right.
Yes. Hmm.
Exactly. So we had gone there, and I'd made my shots at sunrise, and we went to have breakfast. As we were walking back, there was this large demonstration that was happening in protest of the Nigerian schoolgirls that had been kidnapped several weeks before this, or had been. I don't forget exactly what the time frame was, but there was a demonstration there, and there were a lot of press and a lot of people there. And so almost immediately, I saw all this activity going on, and I just grabbed the camera and I just started making photographs. And in this particular crowd, there was just just a gang of press surrounding these people. And this is actually, I shot this with the not the X100S, but actually the Samsung NX30
Okay.
that I had with me. And I saw, this group within the center that were being peppered with questions, and I literally raised the camera above my head and used that angled viewfinder, that articulating viewfinder, in order to compose the shot. Because otherwise, I would not have been able to get squeezed past all these people here that were making the photographs. So it was insanity. It was really really crazy. But I was really happy with the shot because not only do you get a sense of place because of the little bit of the Eiffel Tower that you get in the back, but I just like the gesture of the fellow trying to push back the press there. I felt this image really kind of aptly captured the feeling of being in the midst of all of this.
And also I would add that it's so dynamic because it's tilted, so it gives more that sense of chaos, and that works really well. I mean, so many times we try to have things, nice and horizontal and your verticals, but here having it tilted and then those microphone coming from each side just adds to the chaos, and it's perfect here. And yes, I mean, you go right to those two main people, the guy with his hand, and the hand is very very strong here. The gesture is just perfect, and then that woman behind him. I mean, those are definitely the two people that draw your attention right away. I really like it. I mean, it's just, but yeah, I was wondering actually how you got so high to shoot it. But so you were not standing on anything, you actually just raised the camera and got the shot that way. That's pretty cool. That's one thing you can do with the tilt screen, which we can't do with the Fuji. So
Yeah, because with the fixed position screen, I'm oftentimes when I am doing these Hail Marys, we'll take the shot, then look down and see if I have to adjust my composition, which I almost always do. And this is one of the reasons why I like the NX30 with its articulated screen, because when I have to make shots like this, it makes it so easy, whether it's above my head or really low to the ground. With the X100, I gotta get on the ground if I want to get that low perspective.
yeah, no, that's a great shot. I really like it a lot. I mean, that's just and there's so many of those demonstrations happening in Paris all the time, so you're bound to run into one. And but it's hard to get the shots and the storytelling shot like this.
And one of the things I'm just realizing about this shot, now that we're looking at it, are all the hands basically
Yeah.
leading into the frame on the left, on the right, and at the bottom of the frame.
Yeah, all those hands are meeting. Yeah, they're all going going towards each other. Yeah,
But
that's
good. I'm very happy with that one.
very cool. Very cool. Love it. Okay, let me try to do the screen share better now. This, and then go down to the. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, yeah. I photographed down in the metro myself, but I was really impressed with the shots that you managed to get. Because of sort of the confined space that you're in, it's like you really can't hide that you're making photographs.
Exactly. And the advantage of the completely silent Fuji.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that some Parisians are very sensitive about having their picture taken. So, I felt like, man, I'm really going to box myself in a corner if a French woman or Frenchman is not happy with me raising a camera. I got nowhere to go. So I was always, I made pictures down there, but I always tried to be as invisible as I possibly could. But when I take a look at this picture, I feel like I was really impressed, because you were just getting a great collection of people in this shot, and I love the body language, the expressions. It's really really fantastic, and I was really curious to hear the story behind this photograph.
Thanks. Well, it was on the way to Montmartre, and so we go through such a variety of neighborhoods. So it's really rich and very crowded. And so you have people of all. I mean, you have the business people, you have some tourists, you have just the local people, variety of ethnicity. It's just a great place to photograph in the metro. It is a little gutsy at times. I don't bring the camera to my eye, so although those people definitely there are three people in this frame that made eye contact with me. Um, I'm not sure they were so aware that I was shooting. I was actually taking a picture of them at the time. They could have just been looking at me because I had a camera pointing at them. But as I said, it's completely silent. It doesn't make us. It doesn't make a. There's no light flashing. I keep it low. So it's. I didn't do that when I was shooting with the DSLR. I couldn't. I had a few of my students with me in that metro, so they may have, been more. Some were actually bringing the camera to their eye, which really surprised me and made me a little bit nervous. But nobody got even asked anything. Nobody, but we're not doing anything wrong either. I mean, nobody is in any vulnerable situation or embarrassing situation. It's recording life, and if people do ask me what I'm doing, that's all I'm going to tell them. I said, well, I'm recording life in Paris as it happens every day, and but you're right, it's tricky in Paris because of the people are extremely private, and that the right to privacy is big there. So you have to be ready to show the back of your camera, to try to explain, even in broken French or in English, a lot of people will understand English, what you're doing, because it's really educating people to what street photography actually is. And once people know, they usually don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I only had two incidences where someone said something to me, but they were speaking French, so I didn't understand a damn thing they were saying. I just sensed that they were a little irritated, but they weren't confrontational.
Okay.
I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you can do. I've never run into any situation where I got anybody mad. But it's happened, like if I wanted to do a street portrait, for example, and had an interaction where I had the interaction, but the person didn't want to have their picture taken, and that's completely fine. I completely respect that. I shoot mostly candid street photography in Paris, so I'll shoot and then I'll just beg for forgiveness if they if they catch me.
one of the challenges I found photographing in the metro was just the jostling of the car.
Yeah.
So because the light isn't abundant, so I was having to boost my ISO and have to be very conscious of my shutter speed. But also I had to be sort of anticipate the moment that I actually would press the shutter release button. Like sometimes I would photograph as just as the train had stopped or right before it started, rather than trying to shoot while it was moving.
Yep.
Was that a concern for you while you were shooting?
No, and you miss some shots, and I do shoot at really high ISO. This was probably shot at 3200, but with that camera, it's not a problem. You have to, yeah. If it stops or starts, it just shakes too much to shoot, and you have to hold on yourself. So otherwise, when it's running, I usually just hold the camera right in front of my stomach and really tight, and that's when I shoot. I mean, I glance at the screen once in a while to compose and do the focusing, and then I'll just hold it really tight against me. Kind of use myself as a tripod to hold it as still as possible. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, let's go down to your next one. And my mouse stopped working. Oh no. Okay. So if I do this, why won't it let me switch so easier than that? Okay, sorry. There. Okay. Oh, I love the movement here. Where did you shoot this?
This was not too far from the hotel where we were, so I got up really early in the morning, and I just started walking around. And that's one of the things I really love about um, traveling in Paris is getting up early as the
Yeah.
city is waking up. And so I was just sort of wandering around, and I was walking down the street, and these two kids had just come out of that doorway that's right in the back of the frame, and they were just sort of moving past me on their way to school, and I could see them coming, and so what I did is I just got down. Um, I think I may have actually done like you. I brought it down to waist level I
Yeah,
can't.
you can tell you're pretty low.
Yeah, I can't remember whether or not I actually physically got down or whether I just brought it down to waist level. But I knew I wanted that perspective because I like that waist level perspective, and I didn't want to shoot down on them. So as they were coming into the frame, the little girl passed by me, which explains why she's a little blurred while he's sort of relatively sharp because he's a little further away. And I only got, and this is one of those cases where I only got the one frame.
Oh, I love it. It is so timeless. And I just love that the little girl is looking back and she's in blur and he's definitely where your eye goes and the French cartable, the school bag. You know, he could have had a backpack because a lot of French kids are starting to just wear the regular American looking backpack, whereas French kids, the cartable, which is kind of a more of rectangular shape, really it holds its shape basically, so your books are nice and neat in there. That's a typical French school bag, and his is similar to that in a more, kind of a modern version of it, but it's still the typical French school bag that he has on his back, and I like that he doesn't have any large writing on his shirt or anything, so it gives it a more timeless feel. Because, if he had a big Nike logo or something, that would have distracted. But here, and that was part of luck that he has those cute little glasses, and it's a timeless image, and I love everything about it. This is
Oh,
beautiful. This is so Paris. It's just the wet pavement, and I love it.
yeah, it's I can't tell people, I can't recommend people enough that they get up early every once in a while. I know it's hard when you're on vacation because it's so easy to sleep late. And God knows we did that a number of times while we were there. But there was just something about being on the street as the city is sort of waking up that provides you nice moments like this that otherwise won't happen. And this was one of the reasons I was glad that we weren't staying in one of the touristy areas, that we were in areas where there were local schools and storefronts and a lot of apartments, so that I was able to keep an eye out for stuff that was more Parisian than sort of the typical touristy spots.
Oh, exactly, and it's beautiful. The moms taking their kids to school, and then again at 4:30 when the elementary school usually, then they go with the babies, and then they go get the older child at school, and there's such special moments, and to me that's growing up. You have the pain au chocolat for a snack after school, so you see them go from the school to the bakery to get the goûter, the after school snack, and those are such cultural things that haven't changed, and that if you pay attention to that, and being in Paris off season like that, when school is in session, it's a wonderful time to be there and see what real life is like in a place where you go in July and August, and all those kids are gone on vacation on either coast. So they're not there. So that's very authentic, and I just love it.
Oh,
Perfect.
I appreciate that.
Beautiful. Okay, next. There. This is at Place de la Contrescarpe, which is in the 5th district, just not even half a block from where Hemingway's first apartment was in Paris, just around the corner. And I spent a lot of time there. That's the neighborhood where I usually stay or nearby. And we always see those wandering eyes, usually men looking at women walking by. And here I caught three. I mean, two men and a woman looking at this beautiful young woman walking by, very, very chic. And that was, I was prepared, but I was pretty lucky as well to catch all three. So the guy closest to her, the one right in the middle, I mean, obviously, glancing. His wife probably noticed, but she's kind of not saying anything. And then the couple next to them, they're both looking. And the woman has that expression like, yeah, she looks pretty good, kind of ticked off by it. And then her husband, partner, whatever, staring right at her. And I just thought this is such a common scene, such a common scene. But just to capture that, I was really happy with it.
I mean, it's a great moment. I just like how she's sort of in her own world. She's sort of
Yeah.
oblivious to the attention that she's getting.
Yeah, she is. But I think she's kind of aware of it too, like she looks pretty cool. She doesn't have to make much of an effort.
Well, I gotta say that when Parisians are dressed casually, it's always much better than the way we dress when we're dressed up here in the States. It's just amazing to see how both the women and the men would be dressed. I mean, they're so fashion conscious, for lack of a better word. There's such a style and a flair to so many of the people there. Sometimes you could tell the American in a heartbeat. You know, we're the ones
Yeah.
with
And
shirts on, are unironed and
Yep, and we do. I mean, people do change to go to the store. People, I mean, it's not like people dress like this, with the high heels when they're in their apartment, but they do change to go out. They won't go out in their sweatpants. That is just not a French thing to do, or very rarely, and very unusual. So yes, there's definitely a big difference, and it's great for street photographers because it's always such a treat to see people dressed so elegantly. So
this is a shot that makes me think about the importance of finding the setting first before you find the moment. Like you have the setting of these people at this cafe, and they're sitting there having coffee or having a meal, and you have time to sort of build the overall composition, and then it's just a matter of just waiting for something.
yeah, the right person to enter the frame, and this is a good spot for it because it's the center of this it's a circle with a fountain in the middle, and there are cafes all around it. So you can be, and there's very little traffic. So you can be standing right next to the fountain and kind of circling around that fountain, and then you have all those cafes around. So nobody really notices you. It's a good place to shoot, and that's usually a place where I bring my students very early on in the workshop because it's fun to even sit there and just watch people go by. So there's so much, you can spend a whole day there, and you would never be bored as a photographer in that little square.
Was this a shot that you made with a single frame, or did you make a series of shots of different people moving?
No, I probably took two shots of that one scene. Well, one with this woman walking by only, but I stood there for a few minutes, and then I don't usually stand in one spot very long. I was actually waiting for someone, so I was just keeping busy. That's what we do when we have a camera. Instead of just standing there, and I was a few minutes early. I grabbed a few shots. So I don't put it on. I don't shoot, although I started doing that when I've been testing the Sony Alpha 6000, which has an amazing focus tracking, high frame rate capabilities, and that would have been a perfect place for that camera. But no, I usually just do single shot with Fuji.
Yeah, sometimes I will camp out at a spot and just wait. I'll build the overall composition, and then I'll just wait for something to sort of happen.
Yeah.
And,
It's a fun thing to do, and it's fun to do when you travel because you pick a place where you'll have, like here there's La Petite, which is part of the name of the restaurant. So you give it has a sense of place. You can have some writing in the background that's not too that's not going to draw your eye too much, but it's really important in travel photography to have that sense of place, and here it really says France and Paris. So I do that a lot, and I think it's a good thing to do when you have a little bit of time. You don't have to spend an hour, but even 15 minutes. It's amazing the range of the different people who are going to walk through that frame.
yeah, and there's no shortage of interesting people.
That's for sure. Okay, let me do this. Next one. It's got to be an easier way. I should have put all the pictures in one folder.
Well,
Okay.
it's a learning process for us.
Yep. I love this one. Okay, tell me again.
Oh,
That's I looked at your pictures, and that's the one that really stood out for me.
yeah, this was made at the base of the Arc de Triomphe. We went there at sunset, and we actually walked up, I think, the 283 steps or 282 steps all the way to the top. Uh, and man, was that a long walk. My God, I had 282 steps. It's not too bad. Oh my God, it just didn't stop. Um, but we were greeted by this wonderful rainbow when we got up there. So it was like it was well worth it. It was just beautiful. But as we were winding our way down, we got to the base of the building. We were about to exit, and I turned around and I saw this attendant in this little sort of kiosk, and he was, I think, studying something because he was busily reading something. But I saw the light within the room that he was in, and the light coming up from above the stairwell, and I went to my wife, oh, wait a second, and I just turned around and I made several frames within the space here because I
Oh,
love the light, I love the line, and especially I love the fact that he has that gesture on his hand. I think for me that really sort of makes the shot. But it's sometimes I'll do that. I'll stop and I'll look behind me because we're always looking forward, but sometimes there's an interesting shot just behind us, and that's what I did. I just looked around. I went, oh, there's something here, and made the shot.
oh, it's a great tip, and it is great. Yeah, the gesture definitely makes the shot, and then the line of the stairs, the light. It's just everything just works. I really really like it. When I saw it, I mean, I had to look twice. I went, oh, I have to go back there. I want to see this spot. So it's great. It really is great. And sometimes, isn't that funny how the pictures that will stand out the most maybe in your photo album of a 4 week vacation, will be this type of pictures, and that's what's so beautiful about street photography.
And I think it points to the idea of how much we can miss when we're not looking carefully.
Yeah.
And because how many times have people walk past this scene and not thought about it being
Never saw anything. That's the thing. People don't see and that's about this learning to see. People go by, walk past, and they don't see the beauty in a scene like this.
And I think that's one of the things that really happened for me while I was in Paris for this time was the fact that I was really focused on seeing. Um, I wasn't feeling rushed at all. And I think before we were always trying to squeeze all these things in, and we were, trying to do the typical touristy stuff and trying to get around. But, I would often, be trying to slow down and not
Yeah.
feeling rushed, just sort of observe what was around me and take a look at what was happening with the light, and it would lead me to make photographs that I think otherwise I would have missed.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great shot, really. It really tells a story, and everything. I wish I had that shot. Okay, next. Okay. So you probably didn't get to see that because you were a little early, and they may have had the tango dancers on some of the nights because you were there in May into June, and that's a bit early. But in the summer, it's every night on the left bank. So if you know where the um, Arab World Institute is on the left bank.
Hmm.
It's just a little bit further down the river, and it's just a great spot. And there are people who just there's music, and then people come even on their own, and they find somebody to practice their tango. There are people who are teaching it just for fun, and it goes well into the night. And it's a beautiful place to just watch or to participate. So it's the Tango Nights in Paris, and every night I believe it's every night during the high summer season, and then before then, like June, I think it was just a couple nights a week and weekends. But so that's where I shot this, and I shot. This is an instance where you have to shoot a lot, and I don't carry a tripod, so it's kind of like a little amphitheater. So I set the camera on one of the steps, and then put it on 2-second timer, and then grab shots whenever I'd see some, people coming towards me that were more interesting looking. And I just love that woman and her hand. There's the passion in her hand. And I mean, nobody is in sharp focus here. I mean, she's also blurred, but she wasn't moving as fast as the other one. So and that wasn't a very long exposure either, but she's definitely the sharpest subject, and I just love the hand and that passion. That's what caught my eye in this shot. And I removed the color because there was a lot of bright color around her, and it distracted from her.
Yeah, that gesture is just wonderful. The way she's sort of leaning into him and his expression, it's just wonderful. And how all the other blurred figures serve as a counterpoint to them. It's just a wonderful, wonderful shot because it really conveys so much of the energy and the mood. It's great. And one of the small things I like about this is up in the upper left-hand corner of the frame, where you have those two figures are sort of either walking in,
Yep.
or they're just observing, but they help fill up what otherwise would be this area of sort of negative space.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
So it seems to have their place.
Yeah, it's a special place to see. I mean, this is life in Paris, and these are not tourists. These are the local people. Along the river, more often than not, you go in the evening, it is filled with people having champagne, sharing a bottle of red wine, couples, and they're for the most part local people. That's what they do. Co-workers meet by the river and have their before dinner drink, in after work. And then sometime it's impromptu picnics and so life in Paris when you're there. Not quite in the high season. July, August, things change a lot, but May and June are wonderful times to be there. That's why I run my workshops in May or June, and then again in September, October, because it's so much more authentic.
Yeah.
So
well,
definitely recommend it. So, but I was quite pleased with. I got 2 good shots that night, 2 different couples, but this one is still my favorite because of the hand, and there's so much in that hand, and it just worked the best, I think. But
it's a wonderful example of a shot that doesn't have to be technically perfect. I mean, we are so obsessed with things being tack sharp, but this conveys so much emotion, so much mood that I think the lack of sharpness is not a detriment to the photograph at all.
I agree, and I think technically perfect is overrated. Is it David Duchamp who actually said that we're not wired to respond to perfection or something of that nature? And I thought, wow, this is so true. You know what? I don't care if my pictures are slightly blurred or noisy. That adds to the mood. And people are just too much into the technically perfect picture and no story attached. More often than not, unfortunately. So, thank you. And that is a Paris shot if I've ever seen one. Beautiful.
Yeah, I was walking across the bridge where I saw this couple, and they were, I think, kissing at the time. So to their right, I was walking across the bridge. So the girl's back was to me.
Yeah.
I think they were hugging is what they were doing. And so at first I was making the frame. I made those frames. As I kept walking towards them, I kept shooting because with my original compositions, the people who were walking across the bridge with me were looking back at them and looking back at me making photographs.
Oh, okay.
In the background. So I kept shooting because I didn't know if and when they might notice me because I knew I wanted to get into a better position. So as we moved across the bridge and I moved alongside them, then I was able to include, the river, the Notre Dame in the background, the clouds, and they were completely oblivious to me. So I must have made like 12 or 15 frames there because I was shooting because I didn't know. I knew I was waiting for this moment to happen. I was waiting for
Hmm.
some sort of gesture there.
Yeah,
But I
beautiful
also,
gesture, beautiful smile. It's yeah.
yeah, but I also knew that I had to keep shooting because I didn't know when it would just all disappear. So I kept shooting, but I was sort of anticipating a moment. And when she brought her hand up to his cheek, I knew I had it. I kept shooting after this, but this was like the best moment.
Oh, and it's so dramatic. The sky, and then Notre Dame in the background there. It really is a beautiful shot. Again, it. So you were shooting with the Fuji for this one. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
this was the
Okay.
food,
So
and
you
this is
were on full silent yet, but you were pretty close. You were really close.
yeah. I was probably 5 feet maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
That's
I could
good. That's lucky that you were able to actually stay that long and not draw attention. But as you said, they had better things to do.
But if I'd had my 5D Mark III, that slap of that mirror would have
Oh,
given me away so quickly, and I would have just sort of braved just one shot, which may or may not have been the key moment. But the fact that this camera was so quiet, um, and there was so much activity behind me as people were moving past me that it allowed me to get the shot without them being distracted.
yeah, it's definitely getting easier and easier to be invisible. I think with the new technology that we have, and then you use some techniques. I use the cell phone technique a lot. Like I have my camera. I demonstrated that on my workshop, and I did a few videos. But the camera ready to shoot, and then I pull out my phone, and I'm pretending I'm texting while
Yeah.
I'm actually taking pictures of the subject. If I'm really, really close to someone, like within 3 to 5 feet, that's a good way to distract from attention. And they don't, I mean, your camera's silent, so they don't think you're taking the picture. They think you're actually on your phone, like everybody else, and then they don't even pay attention to what you're doing. And I don't feel like that's disrespectful or sneaky. I just feel like I don't want to disrupt the moment, and that's my way of not disrupting the moment and getting the shot. So I don't. I mean, yeah, people would think that's pretty sneaky, but for with a purpose, it's a good one. So
It works. It works.
it works. Yeah, it works. That's great. And last, I decided to share a color shot with you because it's not always black and white, although most of what I shoot is in black and white. But sometimes it's all about the color, and here the light, the color of the buildings, and then this woman walking towards this wall was striking to me, and the fact that she's wearing colors that complement the color of the building and the light um, was the shot, and that was a really quick shot. I walk by this street several times a day, so I always look because just want the black cat or you just want something to. You always envision a shot in the street like that, or somebody with a bicycle and a baguette. You never know, but and then I saw this woman walk away, but walking towards that wall, that dead end. And I thought that was such an unusual shot. And so I grabbed two shots, and one where she was in between steps, so it didn't work as well as this one where she actually is in step and one hand moving. So that's the one that worked best.
Yeah, I love this shot because I made so many shots like this, which didn't oftentimes include a person. I would find something and I would go, I really like the play of light. I like the architecture. I love the way the light would bounce off the buildings because the streets are so narrow that the interplay of light can be really, really fascinating. But I was always looking for that something like this, of this.
Hmm.
And I love that she's walking into a dead end. It makes me wonder even more where is she going.
Exactly. Yeah. Which door is she going to walk in? Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it was really interesting, and it's funny because I took that picture, and it stayed in my Lightroom library for several days before I even paid attention to it. And just because I didn't see it as a black and white shot right away, I knew it was going to be a color shot. I tend to not pay as much attention to those because I really see Paris in black and white. And then when finally I paid attention, I'm like, this is actually one of the top 3 pictures. My top 3 favorite pictures of this trip that's one of them, and that's the only color one that I really liked. But it's interesting how, you look back. Sometimes you just have to wait a few days until you
Oh
just.
yeah, yeah. I have to go through my Paris photographs soon because we're going to have a little sort of slideshow party here at the house, and I haven't looked at the pictures since I got back from the trip, and because I posted images regularly while I was there on Tumblr, but since I've gotten back, I've not looked at the pictures because I like having that sort of distance so that I can revisit the images with a fresh eye, so I can sort of make discoveries like that where.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's great, and I sometimes it's good to distance yourself a little bit. That's true. Great. And the last one of yours. There you go. I think I know pretty much the neighborhood where that is because of this famous bookstore behind it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you were inside. You have reflection, so you were.
We were at a blue lingerie
Mhm.
and having I think it was I think we were just having a drink there, and I think this was probably in the first couple of days there. This was our waiter, but he was outside cleaning off a table, and this was one of the first times I had the chance to really kind of um, use the camera, and I thought, well, let me see how this camera performs wide open because the lens on it has a maximum aperture of f2, and so I just kind of pressed the camera as close to the window as I could, and I made this frame while he was cleaning off the table, and I really just uh, I was really just playing around. I didn't know I was going to like the shot as much as I did till later. I was like, oh, let me see what it does, and I like the his body language, his gesture, the way he's focused. I like the repetition of the chairs, and I like the reflection that provides a sense that we're separated by this pane of glass. So it's one of the pictures that I really like from the trip.
Yeah, I do too, and I like the people walking in the background, and I do like reflections. People always tell me, oh, well, maybe you should put a filter or something so you don't have so much reflection. I'm like, no, 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 I love the reflections, and sometimes you get something really interesting in a reflection that adds to a sense of place or whatever, and shooting. So you were shooting out versus shooting in, but that's actually more unusual because you were actually on the inside shooting him doing his work outside that same cafe, and that's actually a pretty unusual shot, and I like it too. It's just, yeah, the hand, the gesture, the expression, yeah, it works. It works well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really interesting that how um, how differently we worked.
Here, I can remove the screen share for a second, and then unlock this. Okay, hopefully
Because
that
I
works.
love the photographs that you made, and it's like God, I I I wish I'd been there with you, because I think we could have um, had a really fun time sort of comparing how each one sees and shoots
Yeah.
and stuff. I think it's always really kind of good to go out there with someone, not so much that you're sort of handicapping each other, because I think that can be a real issue, but being able to sort of compare notes afterwards, I think is always kind of fun. And
It
it's one of
is.
the looking forward to working alongside with you when you come to Los Angeles.
That will be fun, and it's a treat for when like there this October. Um, I mean, the students got to experience two completely different styles of street photography, different techniques, and so just spending the weekend with the two of us was really good. So here again, the students will be able to experience our completely different styles and techniques. So I think that always makes it more interesting for us and for the students too. So it's a kind of a bonus.
Well, I have a link for the for our workshop in the show notes. But between then and now, are you teaching any other workshops that people might want to check out?
Oh, yes. Actually, I have one spot that just opened for Paris this fall, September 28th to October 4th. Before that, I'm going to Normandy, but that's been sold out for quite a while. And then when I come back in October, I have a weekend workshop in Minneapolis. And then right away, I get on the plane for New York and teach another workshop there with James Mayer. The New York workshop, both Minneapolis and New York still have a few spots open. So yeah, it's going to be a busy fall season. And then after that, I take a couple months break and just focus on other things, writing and catching up on articles.
Well deserved rest.
Yeah, but it's fun. I just love, I, you know, it's our passion. So we're the happiest when we have a camera in our hand. So sharing that with a small group of people and it's just awesome. Doesn't get better than that. So
All right. Well, Valerie, thank you so much. It was fun sharing our images, and I hope people got a lot out of it. And I look forward to seeing you in 2015.
sounds good. Thanks, Ibarionex.